And good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hot Takes Goodman and Haertl. Bruce, I do not want to hear this circular logic anymore. I'm tired of it. Well, because the Nuggets pushed OKC to seven games.
Yeah.
The Nuggets would not have beaten Minnesota, and they would have been fortunate to make it a 6-game series. This is not a knock on the Nuggets at all. Not one bit. Minnesota is a better team overall than the Nuggets. Period. The matchups are terrible. By the way, so, Anthony Edwards, for as much as he flaps his gums all the time, he would have had no problems on Jamal Murray. He had problems with SGA. There's a big difference between SGA and Jamal Murray, with the exception of both of them being Canadian.
Well, I don't even know why we're having this discussion anyway. You lost in the second round of the playoffs. That's, for me, the end of the discussion. Who cares about the pecking order now? The only thing that matters in the pecking order to me is who's playing in the NBA Finals. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder.
The logic is the Nuggets pushed Oklahoma City to a Game 7, and Minnesota.
And what did it get them?
What
did it get them?
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said for pushing that team to 7 games in games they could have won, kept blowing them in the fourth quarter, and Minnesota looked completely dismantled throughout the majority of the Western Conference Final. It is not an unfair leap to say one team could have won, kept blowing fourth quarter leads, but didn't. And then the team that they would have played got completely dismantled by the team that, in theory, the Nuggets could have and maybe should have beaten.
Okay. I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, to me, that doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't.
Is circular logic.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Right. I got you.
And it's not a knock against the Nuggets. If anything, it shows you how great Jokic is.
Yes.
That's what it shows you. And by the way, by Nikola Jokic standards, he was good to maybe very good, not great, in only 3 of those 7 games.
Yeah. Well, that's what both Oklahoma City and Minnesota create very difficult matchups for the Nuggets. Maybe you can make, and I will give you this, you can make an argument that the tougher matchup is Minnesota. Now you can never accurately forecast. I like your confidence. You never know what can happen in a 7-game series, but going into a 7-game, a best of 7 Western Conference final against Minnesota, the Nuggets would have been the clear underdogs.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I would agree. With that, the best way to buy what you want at the price you want is at Roller Auction, the leader, Colorado auctions for over 45 years on Wednesday, June 4th. There's a government fleet vehicles and equipment auction featuring SUVs, sedans, pickups, utility trucks, vans, or I should say sedans, police vehicles, and more. The bidding has started at rollerauction.com. Get notifications about upcoming auctions at rollerauction.com. Get what you want at the price you want today at Roller Auction. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Smokin' Dave's Barbecue. It is not just the best barbecue in town, it is one of the best restaurants in town. You can find Smokin' Dave's Barbecue off 36th and Pecos.
Again, I know you don't do it. I do, because I think it is the world's greatest sports bar. And that is social media, specifically X, where people have spot-on opinions, things that are completely unrealistic, like, because Oklahoma City was pushed to 7 games, the Nuggets would have whooped up on Minnesota like the Thunder did, and would be sitting in the NBA Finals right now. There's a lot of smart people on Twitter, a lot of crazy opinions on Twitter, but this is where I am going with this. Boy, that David Adelman, that was a really impressive press conference. I'm not suggesting that it wasn't, okay? But when is the last time outside of Dan Campbell that you can remember a press conference happening and you're walking away thinking, well, that guy's an idiot? It always comes away. You always come away from a press conference, generally speaking, man, that guy was really impressive. And it's not like we didn't know who David Adelman was anyway. He is impressive.
Well, and to your point, and it's worth being reiterated, there was really nothing that came out of that press conference yesterday that is new and earth rattling or earth shaking. It's more of a getting his philosophy, his pattern of communication, his pattern of relationship building out there so that we can start the process of improving this basketball team. And that was an overriding theme in that press conference yesterday. This basketball team has to improve, period. It's nothing that none of us don't know. These are all kind of statements of the obvious, but how do they improve? That becomes the question that you have walking out of that press conference, because he talked about, again, we heard the process and the tools for us to improve exist within the walls of this building. So we'll see what happens with the offseason and acquisitions and what they try to do with things, potential trades, et cetera. But more than anything, the focus is going to be on getting guys that they have under control right now better. That's the plan. Now, there may be other things that add to it, but fundamentally, that's the plan. And I do think the one thing that he did yesterday that I really liked, and there were many things, was he challenged those players to prove it to him.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the best thing that I heard most of the day.
All right. I'm going to go back to our generation and then bring it up to Alex's generation, who's the producer of our show. Back in the day, there was a show called Kung Fu with David Carradine. It was a martial arts type of show where you had the wise Zen master. Okay? Mr. Miyagi, Karate Kid, wise Zen master. I am going to do this, not try to do it disrespectfully, but say it in a way that maybe Mr. Miyagi would say it, okay? Because I think that David Adelman has some Zen-like things to say that you hear it, and he says this all the time. He says it, and you think, okay, that's interesting, but you really have to dig deep and think about it to say, oh, wow, that's pretty insightful. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful in the way that I say it, because I'm going to try and use a little bit of an accent. I apologize for that. I'm going to go Mr. Miyagi on this, okay? You ready?
Okay, great. Yeah.
Most of time, you want to win big, have to play slow. That is David Adelman. And you think about it and you're like, okay, what does that really mean? Most of the time, if you want to win big, you have to play slow. So you really kind of have to think about, what in the hell does that really mean, right? But it does make sense. However, and what he's talking about is a half-court game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Michael Malone would come out and say, we have to be better in the half court. That's what most coaches would say. You have to be better in the half court. You have to be better in the half court sets, finding the open guy, moving the ball around. But he says it in a way where you're like, ooh, that's very profound.
Well, that particular statement was in application to how you're playing in May.
Right.
And so when he's talking about changes stylistically, and what have we seen from the Nuggets? They're a great transition team. They like to get the ball off the glass and go. And those are all very effective ways to score and to win games. He is trying to find the right balance between how you win. Yeah. Yeah. Balance.
Mr. Miyagi.
Balance. Thank you. Balance. Yes. Thank you, Grasshopper.
There's
he's trying to find the balance between winning and developing depth in the regular season to winning with depth in the postseason. The acknowledgement and the understanding and the truth of the matter is, and we've seen it all postseason, playoff basketball is as different as from a postseason to a regular season as there is in any sport. The way the games are called, the way the games are played, it's just different. And so how are you going to win games in May? That was talked about a good amount, not only yesterday by David Adelman, but by Josh Kroenke last week. So these are the things that they are trying to implement. I thought there's one statement, and he said some really good things to your point, Eric, really good things. But he did say one thing that really struck me. He said that new ideas are good ideas.
Whoa!
I have to give them something that they want to come back to. Yeah. I thought that was a really interesting. I'm not so sure I even agree with that statement, but it was an interesting thing to hear for me from his mouth. Like, okay, because he wants to re-engage. He had 17 games to make his point. He made his point. And he made his point by taking a team that you and I agree, because we talked about this during the season, late in the season, a team that had stopped listening to the message of Michael Malone, right? Mm-hmm. Sometime you get to a certain point, the message may even be good and right, but guys tune it out. That's 10 years into the operation, and it's the same message over and over again. We get it. His message may have been fairly similar in a lot of ways, but it was communicated in a different manner. And I think that's what we're going to see with David Adelman. He communicates in a different kind of way. But I do believe that he believes this, that he's got to do something exciting for this team to come back to in the way that they play, how they defend, how they run their offense, little tweaks that they can do, because that team did buy into whatever he was selling into the postseason. That much is clear.
It's funny because when I was thinking about the hire of David Adelman, I went back to some pretty simple Denver sports history, but I think you see this generally speaking anyway with a lot of coaching hires. You have a guy who has a personality, a certain personality, and the guy eventually gets fired, and then you bring in someone who seems to be different than the other guy. Let me give you some local examples since I have been here. Josh McDaniels replaced Mike Shanahan. Josh McDaniels, fiery guy, young guy. Mike Shanahan, older guy, brilliant guy. Some differences certainly there. Then, moving on, John Fox replaced Josh McDaniels, adult in the room as opposed to the frat boy in the room. Jared Bednar replaced the fiery Patrick Waugh. Two totally different types of personalities. And then finally, and this is well before your time, Clint Haertl was a rah-rah, slap-your-back guy. And I can tell you the players were kind of tired of it. They didn't want him going in the clubhouse anymore. So who did they go with? Jim Tracy.
Yeah.
A guy as quiet as a church mouse. My point in that is you look at Michael Malone, kind of a rah-rah guy in a roundabout way, motivational guy who speaks his mind. And I think he eventually became offensive to veteran players. offensive to them. Like, stop calling us out in public. David Adelman is not that type of guy. He talks to them like adults all the time. It is not to say that Michael Malone didn't passionately love his players and talk to them like adults. But when you have a message, is it served up on a piece of china or is it served up on the lid of a garbage can? And I am not suggesting that Michael Malone was serving up a message on the lid of a garbage can, but every time he would call out guys, I'm sure guys, even if Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray or MPJ or Jokic or Westbrook agreed, they didn't like being taken to task. So when you have the David Adelman Kung Fu Mr. Miyagi Zen Master saying what he is saying, the way he is saying it, being profound in a calm way, and you also feel him as a head coach, he will want to work with these younger guys. I think he's probably better equipped and has the better temperament to work with these younger guys. And he relates to the older guys by not undressing them publicly. Not a knock on Michael Malone. David Adelman's a different cat.
There's one big difference. You laid out a really good, example of how guys hire and fire. And yeah, absolutely. Here's the difference. For David Adelman spent 9 years alongside Michael Malone. I've always said, as someone who had a failed first marriage, that when you go through the divorce, you don't necessarily always learn what you want. Sometimes you learn what you don't want. And sometimes that's the more valuable information moving forward. And I think that David Adelman, to me, strikes me, and I know he does you as well, as an incredibly insightful, bright guy who has his ideas, and a lot of them probably have to have been formed by the 9 years that he sat alongside Michael Malone, both the good and the things that if he was ever in charge, that he would probably do differently. Some of the things that we've already seen. Now he becomes, after 17 games, and this is the difference, he becomes the head coach. He's not the lead assistant. He's not the guy that you can go to knock around an idea or a frustration. Maybe he is as the head coach. That remains to be seen. But his responsibility now will be different. So how will the message be imparted? That remains to be seen. But I like his style. I like his tone. I like his demeanor. And I like the way that he respects his players. And that's not to say that Michael Malone didn't. Yeah. In his very old-fashioned way of doing things, of course he respected those players, loved those players. It just wore out. It, with time, sometimes wears out. The message needs, even if the message is only slightly altered, it needs to be given in a different way. And I think that that's where we are with David Adelman. Although, having said that, I do think that there are very specific things, pace of offense, how he wants to play defense. Is he going to use more zone, rotation of players? How deep is the rotation going to be? There are going to be plenty of things that separate him from Michael Malone.
Okay, one point I want to get into specifically about the press conference is this. Adelman says he wants to start the season with a 9 or 10 man rotation, adding the expectations will be to come back in better shape. Adelman stressed the importance of a fast start, to use roster maintenance down the stretch to be fresh for the playoffs, as the Nuggets got off to a poor start last year, started I think something like 11-10.
Yeah.
Adding there will be goals set, expectations, private conversations, so on and so forth. My point is, I like the way he tied all of it together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to let a lot of guys play. They're going to have to earn their time. You have to come in shape, because if we get off to a better start, we will be able to maintenance the roster better at the end of the year. And that's what I mean by Zen-like. He paints a picture, but ties it all together very simply. He throws out concepts that are not overly hard to understand, but he explains it in a way where it makes sense to the layman. If anyone was to ever write a book called Coaching for Dummies, I think David Adelman might be considered to write it.
That's an interesting point, and I don't disagree with you. Now the question is, how do those concepts work in application, right? Do they get, especially as it relates to their depth, or right now their lack of depth? We're going to get very interesting early returns on that part of the equation. He laid out the challenges that these guys face, and we know who all of them are. We know who they are, and work has to be done. And I found it interesting that he talked about these guys all have their own handlers and they all do their own work, but it has to be work that applies to what they're trying to do as a team. So that in and of itself is an early lob to say, hey, you better do what you need to be doing to get on the floor with this team. Right. You can improve your skill set, but unless you're improving your skill set in a way that it doesn't fit with us, then, it's really, you're not helping me. You're not helping me here. So it will be interesting to see how those relationships, like for instance, Ron Holmes, does he play this summer in Vegas? Doesn't he have to?
Yep.
Even coming off of an Achilles. I mean, don't we need to see this guy playing in a competitive situation? I think that's going to be, those kinds of things are going to be very interesting to watch as much as we can watch them in the off season.
Well, what are you going to be watching today? Quickly. What are you watching today?
I'm watching hockey today.
Oh, are you going to watch any Broncos today?
Well, I will be. Well, yeah, I will.
Well, there we go. That's why I
will be there. But I am going to watch and see if Mikko can break what now is an 8-game scoreless streak, goalless streak for the Dallas Stars tonight.
So my point is, there will be media out watching the Broncos today.
Yep. Yes.
What are we really going to learn from one practice? That's next. Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of Spider Cruisers or over $15,000 in cash the weekend of July 18th, just in time for the Sturgis Bike Rally in South Dakota. That's right, your choice. Cruisers or $15,000 in cash. Get finalist entries every 45 minutes from 10 a.m. to midnight during their daily cash drawing with a locked-up jackpot of $100 or more. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Spice up your next night out at Nola Jane and Lodo. Authentic Cajun cuisine like andouille sausage gumbo with dirty rice, crawfish etouffee, as well as 6 different po' boys like soft-shell crab and shrimp. Come in before or after a game at Ball Arena. Host a party or party on their rooftop deck overlooking Market Street during happy hour from 11 a.m. to 5. Plus, Nola Jane caters, delivers, and the kitchen is open late night. Make Nola Jane your new favorite spot to eat, drink, and party like it's Mardi Gras.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar. Welcome back. Hot Takes Goodman and Haertl. When I look outside and I see it's overcast and gloomy, I think of comfort food. And when I want some comfort food, I like some really good barbecue. So I go to Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. Again, it's not just the best barbecue spot in town. I really believe it is one of the best restaurants in town because Dave is so creative with the way he has put together his menu. You find something on the menu called the Heart Attack. It's 2 jalapeno cheddar biscuits topped with bacon, pulled pork, shredded cheese, 2 over easy eggs to give it that nice texture, and then throw on some house-made sausage gravy. That sounds great this morning to me. I know that you are a vegetarian. We will take off all of the meats, which basically just gives you 2 jalapeno cheddar biscuits and eggs.
Thank you for that.
For you. I'll take the other. Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. They have great creative items like that, as well as slowly smoked ribs, great pulled pork, outstanding wings as well, homemade desserts, terrific sides like mac and cheese. Go check them out off of 36th and Pecos. Time now for What's Trending.
What's trending on Hot Takes with Goodman and Haertl? Brought to you by Mile High Sports.
Today is the final day of OTAs. We finally get our first look at how does Janae Barron look speed-wise with the defense? How does their new potential number 1 running back? How does Harvey look with the running back room? So on and so forth. Or once again, I know there are a lot of things to watch. It's like a 3-ring circus. But are all eyes once again going to be on Bo Nix to see who maybe we can catch a glimpse of his progression?
Well, mine won't be, certainly. I mean, to me, the whole offseason story is what kind of differences do you have in the new pieces that you've acquired? I know that Dre Greenlaw is in town. He's obviously not participating. I will be watching Hufanga. I will be watching Evan Engram. And I will be watching particularly the first 4 picks in the draft. I'll be watching RJ Harvey to see how much they're using him out of the backfield. He did a lot of pass catching during rookie minicamp. This is their 2nd-round draft pick out of UCF. I want to see what he continues to look like and how they're using him. I want to see what Pat Bryant, the early third round pick out of the University of Illinois, looks like against pro corners.
Yeah.
Is he able to find space against pro corners and realizing there's no hitting? I mean, we're handsy today and that kind of stuff. There is physical contact, but not the real stuff. And then to a lesser degree, but equally as interesting, I guess, Savion Jones, who may be the next John Franklin Myers. I mean, certainly he's the guy that's going to play that 3 technique, that defensive end sort of position, that Zach Allen kind of position. What kind of progress can he make? That's much harder to do when you're talking about offensive and defensive linemen in these types of situations. But those skill guys, you can glean something from, and that's what for whatever it's worth, I'll be paying attention to.
Okay. I don't know if I've heard anybody talk about this. This just occurred to me as you were going through things that you were watching for. The Broncos wide receiver core is still young. And then they just added another piece with the kid out of Illinois. And you can make the case that it's not necessarily, listen, the skilled position players aren't necessarily an Achilles heel for this team, but they're still widely unproven. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I think this wide receiver room has an advantage unlike any other group around the league. I think when it comes to game day, after going up against Surtain and Moss and Ufanga and Barron, I think game day is going to feel easy to them.
It's a good point. Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. What an advantage when you are preparing as an offense to be going against skill guys like you are on the other side. And it may frustrate every now and then. Who knows how the offense and the defense, kind of get after each other a little bit when training camp opens. It remains to be seen. But it should certainly make you a better offense and a better football player. There is no question about that. If you're one of those young players, or if you're a Troy Franklin who's still looking to get to that next level, a Devon Vele who's looking for more consistency, you want those kinds of challenges. At least I would want those kinds of challenges, even if it might be a little frustrating on occasion. Get to it, get creative, find ways to find space in the receiving game, because that's the challenge.
Okay, real quick. Just want a quick answer, and then I'm going to have a follow-up for you. Sean Payton will talk to the media today. I'm guessing they'll pick 2 or 3 players to talk to the media today. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Give me those 2 or 3 guys. Knicks, obviously. Now give me 2 more.
Knicks, give me a defender, maybe.
Surtain.
Yeah, I would imagine Surtain.
And who?
And then won't be a rookie. Yeah, Zach Allen or someone like that.
Okay.
Someone
Listen,
tried and.
This is what I've always respected about the Broncos PR staff. And I will go back to when Von Miller in training camp got busted for failing a P test that he dropped on the floor. They wheeled out Von Miller pretty quickly to the media under the tent at, the media barbecue day, whatever it was. They want to get the stuff out of the way, as opposed to the Avalanche, who will let it linger with Val Nichushkin for years. It's just a different way of doing business. The Broncos want to get ahead of a story. My question is, are they really that eager to roll out Courtland Sutton today, knowing the first question is going to be, you going to be there for training camp?
Yeah.
And how long do they hold him back? And how long can they hold him back before they have to stick him in front of everybody?
Yeah, you know what? And I'm going to remove Zach Allen from that, because all of those are guys that are eligible for extensions. That's the same thing with Courtland Sutton. I think that they'd like to avoid economic talk, contract talk. Let me throw a flyer out there and talk. And I think Evan Engram would be an interesting guy to roll out there. Maybe we don't get him today, but if you're talking about a third guy, that one would make some sense. A guy that they went out and acquired in free agency, a guy that they hope can come somewhat close to filling this so-called joker role, a tight end that gives them some mismatches and some explosiveness, and a guy that's been around the media a ton and knows his way around a microphone. Maybe we'll go with him today. That'd be a really nice, that'd be a nice quartet. That'd be a good quartet. Yes, it is.
Story.
Right.
And Courtland Sutton, because we know what happened last year, that story having nothing to do with him personally, having nothing to do with him as a player and how well he played last year, but it's littered with potholes. With that, do you think this is Courtland Sutton's final year in a Broncos uniform, or do you think they extend him? Because it's a big decision to make, especially after all of the young guys they have brought in through the draft over the last 2 to 3 years, and I'm including Marvin Mims in that too, when I say 3 years.
Just as a question of what they deem, what is the value of the player at this point, and is he trending up, or is he trending slightly down, or is he flatlining?
He's trending up.
Okay, then I think.
Well, do you agree?
I think he's trending up because of the quarterback. Yes, I would agree.
Like Demaryius Thomas trended up with
absolutely. And
you're only as good as your quarterback.
You're absolutely right.
Unless you are a generational talent, and it doesn't matter who you play with. And there are very few guys like that.
Yeah. Courtland is not generational, but he's a good football player. And if he is making the kind of money that is good for him, that is good for the team, that is a guy that I can see them moving forward with. I do think Courtland's good for young receivers. I think he is good by everything that I continue to hear is that he's good in that room. He's good with those guys. He's a good confidant. He's a guy that pushes. He's a guy that imparts wisdom, and he certainly has wisdom now. And he can still be an effective football player. And I think that, and he fits the mold for what Sean Payton likes. He likes those big, rangy, big, wide catch radius kinds of guys. So, yes, I think that he will play beyond this year. I do.
Because I'm thinking right now, who is your number one if they don't bring him back? Now, here's the thing. They need to get something done this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
They will not be able to wait until midseason or after the season to make a decision. So I think every single practice the Broncos have, I think Sean Payton is looking at Courtland Sutton in one of two ways. One, how much better is he than everybody else? Number two, and this is kind of tethered together, has the pack caught up to Sutton enough where we can afford to say we're just not going to give you an extension, or at worst case scenario we'll give you another incentive laden thing. Because if there's a pretty significant gap and Sutton plays and Sutton shows what he can do, that he's carrying things over from last year, you got to do something. But has Vele caught up? Has Franklin caught up? Has Mims caught up? If they haven't, you have to have a safety blanket, at least, for Bo Nix.
Ultimately, the question will be, does this guy help us win football games? And I don't mean to sound overly simplistic. I think he does. And I think as long as it makes sense for them to do it, both in a effective way for the team and for the player, which is where they kind of got to last year. Now, can they do that moving forward? It remains to be seen. I don't know what is pushing Courtland at this point. Being a part of this football team with a fair deal, something that he considers to be fair, or is he looking for a payday? Those sometimes can be incongruous. So we'll see what. But to your point, watch the development of Devon Vele and Pat Bryant. Those are the two guys that.
It's a little early for a rookie.
It is a little, but the body type is similar.
Yes.
And he's a high point guy. And Courtland's a high point guy. Those are the two guys to continue to watch as much as you possibly can to get a sense for where they think they are in terms of that type of receiver, that big, long receiver that can get high in the air and help you in the red zone. So we'll see.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. Make it the best possible day you can.